So now we're going to take a short break, and then we will come back with Victor Tafa, who is an impact entrepreneur and someone who can give a really good insight into how to create a positive future for yourself. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the second part of the show with me, Ian Pelham-Turner, on ALB UK Television and positivebritain.co.uk. This is the Voice of London, and hopefully now we have on air the voice of Victor Tafa, who's an impact entrepreneur. Victor, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Ian. Great to see you.
Great to see you as well. Now, tell me, first of all, what is an impact entrepreneur?
Well, I guess everyone knows the meaning of an entrepreneur, someone who's out into business to make money. But I think I love the fact of impact, because anything I do or create is based around the community. So it has to make an impact in the environment or in the community that I find myself. And so that's why I felt it's important I call myself an impact entrepreneur, because whatever my brain thinks about, whatever I build, add it in my speaking or in my transformational mentoring, I make sure that it actually creates an impact in the environment that I'm dealing with.
How much of an impact do you think Africa and African businesses will have in Britain post-Brexit?
Well, at the moment, it looks like there's a lot of opportunities, but it looks like maybe at the moment we're not pushing ourselves properly for that. And I think because obviously it's been going on for quite a while, and everyone has been thinking, maybe, maybe not. You see, but I think it's about time, because we've had several conversations to see about this with even with the issue of fish, as everyone's talking about now, and there's a lot of things that could be done, because even looking at distances between even China to the UK is closer to get here from Africa than to get here from China. So there's a lot of things we can key into, but obviously we have to build the infrastructure on ground first to be able to key into it properly.
And do you think, because the government was talking last year about cutting back on aid to places like Africa as well, is that going to affect our situation with Africa? I mean, I know, for example, I think at one stage, until very recently, the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, was receiving £1 million a day in government aid from Britain, and it was very, very necessary to assist with the Congolese as well. What do you think? Do you think we should be increasing aid to Africa in order to actually introduce more business opportunities between our two countries?
I think we could be increasing aid, but in my own opinion, I believe the aid I would say here could be expertise. Because I think it will be a lot more useful to us than actually raw cash. Because we have plenty of resources on ground. We have a lot of things going on with us, even as a continent. And do we really need the cash as it actually comes in? So I'm more of the thing that if we can more or less help out based on expertise, as we always talk about, it's better to teach someone how to fish than actually give them fish. So maybe it gets to a time where we as Africans have to say, okay, guys, we know you got more experience than us. Can you guys come in and teach us the trade so we can build for ourselves and we can sustain ourselves? So I think that's the sort of aid that we should be pushing towards than the raw cash that is actually coming in.
What type of businesses do you feel will work well in Africa from Britain? And what type of businesses and projects in Africa would really value Africans into the UK, vice versa?
I think agriculture will be absolutely key to in both directions actually, because I believe we have a lot of arable land, we have lots of food out there, we have so many different crops. I was in an opportunity to invest in agriculture too last year, which was quite impressive, and I'm looking at doing quite a lot more this year as soon as I can get to travel out there. So I believe agriculture is one key thing, because we have the land, we have the great soil, we have the weather, we have everything to do it both ways. So I believe agriculture is well mechanized in the UK, it's quite big and everything. So I believe we can share that expertise with machinery, with infrastructure. I think we'll go a long way in supporting in both directions.
Now, you will know that just virtually 1 year ago now, there was this Pan-Africa Summit in London as well. Did that help to generate more interest in business for Africa?
I think possibly it did, you see, because I'm great. At least we've started the conversation, which I believe is the first step in everything you do. It's always when you start the conversation, it takes you out there. But I think with Africa, I think we have to play our own role in building confidence in the minds of people who actually want to invest in Africa. So I know we have to do more in raising our profile and our image so investors feel a lot more comfortable to go out there. Because at times we mention names, the people will think, I'm not too sure, because obviously what they see on the news or the press, they're not very sure exactly of which way it is. But people have actually made the efforts to go out there and see for themselves, and they've seen the opportunities they've actually keyed into. So I believe it's been a great conversation. Obviously, last year, not much has been able to happen because of the pandemic. But I believe as this year kicks off, I believe when the countries begin to open up, there will be a lot more that could be done. But at this stage, I can encourage those in Africa to build towards building that confidence for foreign investment.
Now, I'm sure we both know that comes from the top. That comes from leaders of countries, presidents of African countries, for example. And I know you've worked with a lot of leaders as well. How do you find African leaders? Are they open to suggestions? Are they open to the future? I
think it's a bit of a tough one, because sometimes I think the leaders themselves are actually open to things, but a lot of people sort of tend to blame African leaders as such. But sometimes when you look closely, you realize that even those around them sometimes could actually be blocking the progress, because they might have a good heart, they might have a good vision, but they have the wrong people advising them around them. So they tend to sort of stand in between the ideas and the leaders. I've had a few experiences where you're trying to get in, there's so many barriers. The bureaucracy is so much, they get to a point where you feel, you know what, I'll just give up. But I think over time I've learned that, because when I started going to Nigeria to either speak or do business and run events, one of the things I realized was, if I just I use the word ignore the government and just focus on just doing things in my own way, I think it began to work better. And I think you started getting momentum and getting more attention. So I think most people that have actually gone in have built away from the government, that when they started making impact, the government could see what they were doing and they got interested and now say, okay, fine, now we want to key in. So I think the best way is always build first and then get them involved. That way it seems to work better.
And I think we both know, again, that utilities, electricity, hydroelectricity is vital for the continent itself, because if I remember rightly, I think only 5% of the Congo had electricity generated to them on a regular basis. Are utilities one of the big assets that we could actually take and help generate in Africa?
It will make a big difference. I'm from Nigeria too, and I think power supply has been one of the major issues. And it's like the major utilities that you need. If you're building a property, you'd have to drill a borehole in. So more or less, you're creating everything for yourself. You have your water, your power supply has to come from generators. So when people are building businesses, they always have to consider, as you build a property or the business, there has to be a space for extra power supply. So when it doesn't come from the government supplies, then you have to use yours. So all that cost always comes into the business too, and it slows things down sometimes, because you come into, let's say you turn up in the morning to your business and your generator is broken. That means you can't really do anything for the whole day. Let's say you run a printing press, you can't do much because you have to wait, go and fix it, bring it back. So it really slows things down. So yes, utilities, especially power supply, will make a big difference to most, especially small businesses out there in Africa.
Now, we've seen over the past 2-3 years many elections. So new leaders are emerging in Africa itself. Are they a new generation that really listen to people like yourself, are inspired by people like yourselves, and are entrepreneurial spirit as well?
There are lots of people who are leaders who are willing to listen. But I think, speaking especially for Nigeria particularly, I think one of the issues we've had over the years is those who really could do the job don't get involved in the whole processes. So you get those who are entrepreneurship, who have an entrepreneurial mind, who are willing to lead properly. When the elections come up, either they don't vote or they don't even get involved in politics at all. Most people feel politics is a dirty game. I don't want to get involved. So they just stand back and just watch everything happen. And I think that's one of the key things that we have to fix first. Then we can begin to make the changes that we actually need.
And I know you're responsible for a couple of very important projects in Africa itself. One is Generation Nehemiah. The other one is the Wonder Foundation. Tell me a little bit about your work in Africa, please.
Yeah, with Generation Nehemiah, over the last few, about 5-6 years now, I've been traveling out to Africa, to Nigeria particularly, to run businesses, to run events to start with, because I was moved by what was going on out there and I felt, what could I do? And I found myself most of the time maybe having conversations with other Nigerians in the UK, and most of the time we just talk about what's going wrong. And I felt, what is going right and how can we help? So I went out there, got some collaborations with people who are already doing things out there, and we started run events in the capital, which is Abuja, and where I'm from in northern Nigeria. And I realized that the northern Nigeria was a bit not up to par with the south. So I chose to concentrate on the northeast to start with, and then I grew myself across the north and then all the way down south. So I began to focus on the northeast, a town called Yola, which is in a state called Adamawa in northeastern Nigeria. And so over the years, we run different events. I've mentored quite a lot of people out there. And so we decided to create Generation Nehemiah with a friend of mine who actually is from Borno State, which is a neighboring state to Adamawa State, where I'm from. And then obviously those two states have suffered during the time of Boko Haram and when they had all the terrorist attacks and things like that. And so we decided, why don't we come together and build something so that those who are abroad, who want to contribute and help the people out there in Nigeria, we can be that channel, the bridges between those who are out there and those who are actually in the country. So we started Generation Nehemiah, which more or less is a Bible named Nehemiah, where it actually talks about when the walls were ruined and he asked the kings to go back and go and fix his country. So that's where we got that concept from. So we've now focused on, our latest project now has been one of the villages that was attacked by Boko Haram on Christmas Eve. So we're now doing a Christmas drive for them to raise funds so we can help the people. And so far we've done quite well raising the funds. We're about to send them out there to people so people can start rebuilding their lives. So that's what's key for us. It's about creating that sustainable community wealth. And that's what's different about us. Whatever we build has to be sustainable. So it has to continue. The money has to stay within the economy of wherever we put the money into. And that's what's very important for us.
Now, a few years ago, I was working with a consortium of British businessmen, 100 British businessmen had come together and wanted to open up opportunities in Africa. But they gave me a shopping list, and top of the shopping list was safety.
Yeah.
How safe is Africa now to actually invest in?
Well, you see, at the moment, I think everywhere you go to, because I can walk down the streets of London, I'm sure there are areas in which are not safe, there are areas that are. But I think a lot of people sort of get worried and get scared because I think things are a bit exaggerated. There are some areas in which I wouldn't encourage people to actually go to. But at the same time, there are areas which are actually doing very well. As long as you have someone who knows the ropes, who knows around the way, I think you can actually get around it. So I know safety is a major issue, and the governments have been saying they're doing stuff about it. But in as much as we are not seeing as much as we expect to see, because sometimes we might think things are not being done because we might not be able to know what's happening behind the scenes, but we are hoping they can do a lot more about safety. So if someone says to me how safe it is, I can say, yes, it's safe. But at the end of the day, I would say, obviously, I would not encourage you to go alone. And if you can get someone who knows the way around it, because the thing I can say most is it's high risk at some points, but I think the gains do balance out with the risk involved.
Now, I know really 3 countries, China, Belgium, and America, are prolific investors in Africa itself. Is there still situations that the British government can still invest in the country? Are there still big opportunities out there?
I believe, as we say, sometimes Africa is like the next frontier. I believe Africa, we never started with it yet. Because even when I go around Nigeria and I look around, I was talking to a friend of mine who is into the rice farming. And he said to me, they produce a lot of rice, but they have issues with rice mills. And around most of the massive rice producing areas of actually my state in Adamawa, there are no rice mills around there. There are no good rice mills to mill the rice and bag them for the market. So when you look at things like that, you realize opportunities are, I think, for me with Africa, I think we have never started yet. And the good thing is, with all the challenges involved, the people are still pushing through challenges to make sure they still keep going every single day. I remember a day when I was in Lagos and I took a walk down the road. And when I walked there and came back to my hotel, what went through my mind was that was a definition of resilience. I was like, against all odds, they were still pushing, they were still thriving, the markets were still there. It was raining everywhere, it was wet, the roads were very bad, but I couldn't believe that the people were still going. So I believe there's so much going on out there. And I think personally, with China in there or with Belgium in there, there's still a lot of opportunities, loads and loads, more than enough.
You're obviously a very positive person. You're a natural entrepreneur. How did you first start in this field?
Well, I think personally, it's been the drive, especially for Africa or Nigeria generally, because I think my ultimate vision is young Africans leading change, and because of that, I had to feed that information. I had to work on myself to believe that whatever it is, I know that we're gonna have to rise. I keep saying to people, I say, look, whatever is going on, you can't keep going down. Whatever goes down must come up. So there's gonna be a day in which there's gonna be a turnaround. You see, and that's the thoughts I have to carry in my head every single time. It's tough when you have conversations, maybe with other Africans or those who've lived here for a very long time, and they say, look, Victor, I can't see this happening. But I've done I had to work on my mindset to start with. I had to transform my way of thinking to start with, to just believe that, look, we can actually do this. And because one of the things I always say too is every time I fly to Nigeria, which I go very often, when I get on the flight, I always say to myself, if I look around the flight and everybody on that plane is actually African, then I'm not going to fly to Africa again. But when I think of someone who is British and who is going to Africa for business, I sat next to a guy the other day. He was flying, his company was Irish, was going to Lagos to go and deliver a training, which is quite interesting. And we just got talking, and I thought, wow, if he feels free to fly into Africa, deliver trainings, and do what he wants to do, that means he must be being paid. He must be paid very well, and he's willing to take the risk to do that. So he has seen an opportunity, and he's going for it. So why not? So that's why I feel that's the way I think all of us have to look at it. Africa is going to have to rise. We have loads of opportunities, and I believe that we just have to just stay positive and keep pushing through it.
In general now, in Britain, where do you see the opportunities for Britain, in trade, just as a general terms, not just purely Africa, but, you are an entrepreneur. What type of things would you be investing in right now, given the opportunities?
That's investing in Africa, is it? Yeah, if it's investing in Africa, personally, I think is agriculture at the moment. I think is what's because obviously oil is more or less on the downside now. So for me, I think agriculture will be the ultimate place to invest in Africa at the moment.
And obviously, because if I use the case of the Congo again, for example, which is one of the largest acreages, in the world, let alone in Africa. But their transportation system still leaves a lot to be desired. I'm not sure how many flights from London to Kinshasa there are, really. Do you think transportation needs to be improved as well?
Yes, it did. I believe it does. I believe even the same as Nigeria, because obviously as a country we don't have an airline as such, and I don't think Congo has an airline too. So I believe that's one area that could be improved to. But obviously we have to weigh also based on the numbers of people actually travel out there regularly, because Congo at the moment has not been very stable, so people might be a bit worried about it. But I think Congo is one of I could call it one of the richest countries in the world, because almost all the mines are out there, with copper and cobalt and different things. So I believe there's so much that could be done there. But not as much as with Congo too, same as most of Africa, I think, is having the right people around the right leaders, that could actually pull in these investments and make them happen. And I think a lot of people actually have these ideas to do these things, but maybe most people are not willing to push through the bureaucracy that goes on in there to actually get these things done.
Which of the African countries do you really feel offers the most benefits to Britain?
Well, I'm going to be biased here and say Nigeria, obviously, because that's where I'm from. But I think Nigeria sits well. It's called, in as much as it might not have a large landmass as Congo and everywhere else, but I think it's called the giant of Africa. And some people watching this later might not agree with me; they're not from Nigeria, but we are called the giant of Africa. And I believe to a large extent, if we take our place as the giant, I think it's key for us to. Because when you look around Britain, there's lots of Nigerians. We have a large population too. So the investments, there's a lot of things that could be done out there. So I would definitely recommend Nigeria.
You're a true loyalist. I get it. I get it. Where do you see your future in the next year?
Well, in the next year, at the moment, in fact, I've been talking about moving back to Nigeria. So in the next year, I'll be working towards that, and or I'll be looking towards spending a lot more time out there compared to UK. So the next year, that's around where I see myself. I've been thinking around politics too, and I'm just watching to see and trying to speak to a few mentors who are in there to see, because I believe the time has come for us to step in and and just try and do our own part. So I feel very, very driven. I feel called in those areas. So next 1 year, I see myself spending a lot of time in Nigeria.
Excellent. Unfortunately, time is against us as always on this show. Can you just say finally, how can people get in contact with you if they're interested to learn more about what you're doing and the opportunity potential in Africa?
Yeah, I think about Generation Nehemiah itself has got a website, which is www.generationnehemiah.ng. You can connect with me on social media, which is Victor Dauda Tarifa, or and on Instagram is at the Victor Tarifa. So whichever Facebook too, you can connect with me too. Once you just search the name, you can find it, Victor Dauda Tarifa. So you can reach out to me in any of those channels. On LinkedIn, it's the same thing too, Victor Dauda Tarifa. So it's the same name across all the platforms. And I'm sure you can drop me a message, and we can always start the conversation. We can always talk, and I'm sure we can work together.
Victor, thank you so much for coming on the show this afternoon. Obviously an expert in all of these affairs. I'm very obliged to you, and hopefully before you go back to Nigeria, we can actually see you in the studio as well, God willing. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thanks a lot too. Have a great day.
Same to you. Okay, well, very, very inspirational. And then you see, this is why at the moment Britain needs to be looking at all the countries, the developing countries right now, because that is part of our major trading future at the same time. So for me, Ian Pelham-Turner on ALB UK Television and positivebritain.co.uk, this was The Voice of London. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. I hope it was inspirational, and I will see you again tomorrow. Stay at home and stay safe. Goodbye for now.